I tell you what, we're on the air, gentlemen. Hey, this is Ian Dubé. I'm here with Roel Bradstock and Kevin Young, world record holder and Olympic medalist. Gentlemen, how you guys doing this afternoon?
Well,
this
I'm
evening?
Fine. This is Kevin. I'm doing well, sitting here on this lazy Sunday, I guess you would say. But I'm ready to talk some track stuff, man.
Me too. Roel, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm staying dry and ready to talk a little bit of track and field.
You're staying dry? What's the trick on staying dry? Because I still haven't been able to do that yet.
Staying indoors and not underneath the tent, so apparently you are.
Yeah, I'm out here at the Swanee Sports Academy. I've got a project that I've been working on with a few athletes out here, so they're actually playing a tournament, and it's a pretty big tournament. You know, I always think track has a lot of athletes, but basketball has a ton of them because, you know, at least you got 10 athletes on a team. I think they've got about 200 teams out here today, so it's been kind of cool. So, gentlemen, I want to kind of catch up with both of you and see what's been going on in your world. Kev, what's been going on in your world?
A few things. I would say over the past 3 weeks, I've been assisting fellow Olympians in track and field clinics here on the East Coast, I guess you say. One at Center College, that was about 3 weeks ago. And then just last week, I was hanging out with Roger Kingdom, Coach Norm Tate, Jack Pierce, and who else I forget? Thomas Jefferson. And we were there in Pittsburgh, well, actually in California, Pennsylvania, where Roger Kingdom was a head coach there at that university, and we were doing a track field clinic there, which went well. A lot of rain there also, but we had a great time. And the good thing about those clinics that you may have an opportunity of doing across the country is the fact that you actually, as a person who's been away from the sport, you actually learn a lot once you're in the graces of the young athletes and how you can advise with them and provide information with them. And I learned actually so much just talking to the youngsters and showing them what I can help them with and vice versa.
Gotcha. What about you, Roel?
Working 40 hours a week.
40 hours a week?
In my day job.
Oh, your day job. What is your day job?
I am a field support specialist for a company that contracts for the Home Depot. So I spend a lot of time at the corporate office here in Atlanta, just fielding questions for stores all over the country. I'm over about 120-plus stores, across the nation, to make sure that the reset teams go there in the stores and make sure the merchandise and put up the product the way it is, the final way in which when customers go in the store and say, wow, that paint looks great there on those shelves, you know. I had to, at times I feel I had to mastermind some of that and make sure those teams go in there and do the proper thing and set it all up. Anything from setting up the paint facing forward with the handles lapped over the forward part of the pail to anything above their head needs to be cardboard boxes. Paint needs to be in cardboard boxes to the small labels that are placed actually on the uprights and beams that are there in the on the shelves, man. So it's very intricate. I had no idea that I'd be doing something like that, but it's pretty fun. You know, a lot of stuff, a lot of work on computers, a lot of Excel files, and all that sort of thing. But most importantly, you know, it's like I said, more savings, more doing.
Yeah, I hear you. Rolled. How about you? What's been going on in your world lately?
Well, this thing, Kevin's talking about paint, but I'm obviously, people don't know I'm an artist. So I'm actually using the paint. There's not gallons of paint, but smaller volumes. So I'm working on numerous projects right now. I'm a little hesitant to talk about them too early right now. But hopefully, in the next weeks, months, and years to come, you're going to hear about certain things I'm working on. Very exciting things that will hopefully really promote track and fields, nationally but also internationally, and just kind of settling into, I guess, retirement. Haven't officially called it quits, but it's just nice being I'm 51 now, so just kind of enjoying just staying fit and training some younger athletes. But again, the focus is on the education and art, and really trying to find avenues to promote track and field.
So you make sure that you put those official retirement papers. Did you guys check out what WADA or USADA did with Sean Crawford?
No, Sean has been running. When was the last time he raced?
I think it was the last Olympic trials, and because he didn't officially turn in his paperwork, they looked to test him. And because they looked to test him, and basically he's been out of the sport for a couple of years, they actually gave him a 2-year ban.
Oh, he has a 2-year ban from a sport that he hasn't been involved in the last year and a half, right?
Incredible. Isn't that something with our drug testing protocols here? They haven't figured out that the guy is retired.
Well, they're welcome to come test me anytime, but hopefully they know who I am. I'm not trying to hide, but, again, I'm 51. I think, Kevin, you're what, 45, 46?
Yeah, 40, almost 47, yeah.
And again, just saying, Kevin and I, and you and I have talked about this before, about, various things, issues with drug testing, and just to kind of, I've always been a big advocate about being, available and open, and just, I just sort of love the sport, and that's why I've done it for such a long time. And obviously with recent things in the news and stuff, not now it's our sport, but other sports, is this kind of, don't say of concern, but just, kind of, history repeating itself. So, when, especially dealing with younger kids, a lot of athletes can kind of talk about the stuff that comes up. It's just a kind of topic that I don't really want to talk about, but at the same time, it's something that's, I think every athlete has to face or, discuss at some point.
Yeah, that's true. You're right about that. Well, for the most part, I guess in any kind of situation, you got to look at actually WADA contacting USA Track and Field at any point to see, whether or not if he was competing or not. I think that would have been the first thing I would have done. But who'd say if they did or did not do it? I'm not sure. I'm sure it's some sort of protocol that they may have done that, or even his agent. But like I say, he hasn't been running for a number of years, and I guess it's really dug off of WADA's back at this point.
Yeah, but I guess if you look at it, Kev, think about this. What's most important at the end of the day is your name. And how many of us really want their name associated with a 2-year drug ban at the end of their career?
Right. I mean, he should have, I guess with social media and how quick it is to provide information out to the general public, if I was him or if folks was in this camp, I would have quickly jumped onto that and just explained my point of the situation and vehemently and just left it at that,
True. Well, let's switching on a more positive note. Let's talk about some of the news that's been coming on lately here, because our sport obviously is more than just drug bans and drug cheats. It's always got some live action coming. I know our youngsters are down in Orlando at the regional championship, and they should be finishing up by now. But there were some good performances down there. I was able to go down there Saturday morning. Tanner Riddles, my high jumper, obviously won. We shut him down at 6'6" because he has some slight shin injuries. But we also got a lot of movement in the coaching ranks. So, Kev, both of you guys have those ties to the UCLA program. So what's going on in UCLA?
Well, it's been either in one case or another. It's been either a shock to me or a situation where I'm really happy that folks are really, actually both making moves and just kind of being progressive and having opportunities provided for themselves. I think one of the first shockers to me was when I was doing a camp with Roger, was we were trying to figure out who was going to be the Clemson coach. And I think at one point Carol, our friend, my fellow Bruin, Carol, what was Carol's last name? I don't even know. I forgot. I think it's Carol Gilbert.
Carol Gilbert.
And she has she has a hyphenated last name, but Coach Carol, put it that way. Very successful coach when she was with the Volunteers, doing her thing there. But she went to was coaching at Central Florida. And I think left there, and now she's... Actually, no, it started even before that. A good friend of mine, old school coach, Coach Ron Ellis, who was the head coach at SC for a number of years. I think it all started with him. Coach Allis retired from USC as their head coach, and that job had been open, so folks were talking about, well, who's going to take over Coach Allis's job, you know? And then, of course, the Clemson job was open. And, you know, we have a very small circle in our sport, so when, you know, you hear those things being available for other coaches, so folks are asking, well, who's going to take this job? Who's going to take this job? And then it was like, well, I know Coach Allis retired. Who's going to take the SC job? And then I believe Coach Gilbert, she went to SC. And I'm like, wow, I thought she was going to Clemson. You know, so she didn't go to Clemson. She went to SC. And then I guess in that whole little involvement, you had Coach Bolden at UCLA leaving there, fulfilling a job there at University of Central Florida. And social media, Facebook, I see Johnny Gray's actually leaving his position as assistant at UCLA to go hang out with Coach Bolden there in Central Florida. And that is cool because I know that's awesome because you know that Johnny and Jeanette are like L.A. transplants. So they're so far entrenched in being in California, for them to be just a bounce. You know there had to be a major decision on their take to just leave and go coach at this other major university. So I was asked a bunch of folks about, okay, so you got Jeanette leaving and Johnny leaving, so you got possibly two positions to fill there at UCLA in the coaching ranks. And a little bird told me possibly Johanna Hayes and John Johnson, my old teammates, you know. So it's a lot of movement in the coaching ranks. But who's to say? I'm not sure. I guess until things start up in the fall, and you know, and then you go on the NCAA site and you see who these head coaches, assistant coaches are at these major universities. But like I said, Little Bird told me that be on the lookout for those two coaches fulfilling those voids there at UCLA, with Carroll just taking over the helm at USC, which is cool.
Now, Kev, ask you this, or Rold, maybe you can answer this for me. UCLA used to be a really storied program. And, Roll, what's your tide with UCLA?
Oh, yeah, we've got John Frazier. John Frazier is also there at UCLA.
Exactly.
Yeah.
well, I moved out there. I graduated from SMU in 85 and then coached and trained at ASU for 6 months. And I moved out to in the fall of 86. So I had a lot of them, about 27 years. And that's when Arthur Nagus was a coach there, the throws coach. And that's actually when I met Kevin. But also, you know, John Fraser and all the other throwers and John Brennan and stuff. And I actually was there, I was on training 6 years, actually on staff for 2.5 years. So, you know, when I moved out to Atlanta back in '96, I bumped into Kevin out here as kind of, you know, a little UCLA connection. But I've been very good friends with John Fraser, who just moved from University of Tennessee out there. And also, you know, although Mike Maynard from ASU, you know, coached at U of A, has been out there now for, I think, 3 years, is it? And obviously before that, he replaced Arthur Nagus, who coached me, and was also a very good friend and stuff like that. So yeah. So both Kevin and I have a lot of connections and ties.
Oh yeah, big time. Yeah, we really have a really huge connection. And the interesting thing is, it's good that a lot of these former athletes to these universities and these programs, and now they're back at their alma maters, with either coaching or at a particular rival within their conference that they're coaching.
Yeah.
And that new blood, I really think it's going to be very helpful to a number of these young athletes, because these athletes who are now coaching, they do come from very successful programs. I was so moved a few years back when Johnny had gotten hired at UCLA, because just kind of watching and looking at the writing on the wall, how, you know, the prestige of track and field at that university had kind of shrunk in my mind, you know, because we were, like I said, we had 2 NCAA championships. And it was just like we had a heartbeat and pulse there at the university that was incredible. And it was, you know, thankful to individuals, you know, like John Frazier when he was in school with me, you know, because he was one of the upperclassmen. He kind of told me, grabbed me with the throwers and kind of gave me a certain amount of swag or attitude to be a Bruin. And it was definitely infectious there on that campus. And I ran with Santa Monica Tri Club under the wing with Johnny Gray. And just the swagger that club had in the 80s, and like I said, it was intoxicating, I guess you would say mostly. And he showed me how to, carry myself not just as an elite athlete, a young elite, a growing elite athlete, a developing elite athlete, but also, I had the opportunity to go back to school. I took that training, I guess you'd say, that guidance, and I took it back to the campus because you got to being in track and field, it's such an individual sport. You got to be a young leader when you're out there. So I was happy to see Johnny at UCLA teaching those young men how to step their game up. How to step the game up and move the sport like it needs to be. Because one thing about it, when we went in our sport, all eyes are always on us. So you got to have a certain attitude when you're moving around, and a certain attitude how you train. You train hard. A certain attitude of how you carry yourself. And I think over the years, a lot of that, I can say at UCLA, that may have kind of went to the wayside. But with Coach Maynard there, John Henry, Joanna, you got my man Chris Asher, who's at Cal State LA. He's there now. Individuals like, I believe Maurice is an assistant there, Maurice Green, and also Darrell Smith, who's an alumnus of UCLA. It's at a turning point. Hopefully, I guess Bruins couldn't do no worse than they have in the past, right, Raul?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm looking for some big and brighter things for the Bruins in the next coming years. So it's a rebuilding season. So we're going to see.
Right, and obviously there's other movements too, because the Oklahoma job is open. Martin Smith went to Boise State. Nuttycombe at Wisconsin, he retired, but they just hired one of the assistant coaches there. And Clemson looks like they're still the bridesmaid, but I'm hearing that one of the assistant coaches from LSU may be taking that job. Mark, I can't think of Mark's last name, but he's been at LSU. He's been the distance coach there, and I hear that he may be the head coach or the next guy in charge at Clemson coming up.
That's awesome. It's good to have that kind of movement in the sport. But so, can you imagine? I mean, think about it. When you were competing at SMU and I was at UCLA, remember how just the conferences themselves and the regional championships were so different. Now they have these. Everything is broken up.
Yeah.
And athletes qualifying and competing in their region in order to make the top 10, 15 for the nationals, which was a lot different when we competed. I couldn't say for the good, for the worse, but I know you had to put up major times early in the season, or at least early middle of spring, to make sure you qualify. You had your slot there for the USA for the national championships collegiately. So, but they've been doing some incredible things in our sport over the years, and hopefully, our athletes will keep receiving this great coaching, and they can climb up the ranks. Because, like I said, that's where our national teams are fielded from, our collegiate teams.
Now, Roll.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Now, Roll, question for you. You the other day we were in a discussion on UK athletics. You want to kind of give us a status, what's going on across the pond? Last year at the Olympic Games, they had a great medal count, and there was a lot of positive traction there. So where are we now in the UK in regards to athletics?
Well, let me just preface this by, I was there for the trials, through the trials last year, and then I went back for about a week back in October. But obviously I know a lot of people, a lot of athletes, and obviously now people I competed with are now coaches, and obviously I know a lot of people that now also in commentating, and just from my observations, it's just the kind of the sport seems to be, even last year, all the hype and stuff at the grassroots level. My concern was just kind of, while the whole thing about inspiration and all this great stuff, is what's the follow-through going to be? And what I've kind of heard and seen, before and since, is just that there's a lot of inspired people. Kids want to go to tracks, want to start, but there's not the coaches. There's just not the capability to basically, support the interest. And I don't know whether that the window's closed on that. It just kind of, but from what I've seen, going to meet some stuff over there is just, smaller and smaller crowds, and just this kind of I think disinterest, but there's other sports that have kind of risen up that are getting more attention, whether it's because they're better structured as far as how they support their athletes, or whether it's just newer sports that are kind of grabbing the imagination of the younger kids. And again, we talked about one of the things I'm kind of working on is various projects is how to kind of repackage athletics and track and field and make it still relevant. On the one hand, it's kind of thought about as being one of the older sports or the older sports in Britain, and kind of and goes back national championships. I want to say 1860s. So you're looking at 150 years, which on one hand is a great thing. On the other hand, it kind of it's like an old sport, and I just don't want to go down the same path as wrestling. And back when Kevin and I were competing, it's kind of, especially in the UK. I mean, it was with Coe and Ovett and Tessance and kind of Whitbread. I mean, it was just all these great rivalries, and it was really entertaining, and it was marketed great, and really well, and everyone, the stadiums were packed, and I just feel this kind of emptiness, or it's kind of the interest is waning, and I think we need to address it sooner than later, and that's my personal opinion. And again, I'm not there at every meet, and very often, but I have enough contact with people over there, and that's been my kind of take on it.
Now, I want to pose this question to both of you. And you said something that's interesting, because I talked to Dexter McLeod a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that we brought out was what happened to those inherent rivalries in track and field. You had Ovett, Cram, you had all kinds of Nehemiah, Greg Foster.
You had all the sprinters, you had all the javelin throwers.
You had
you can name all, Zelensky and all those guys, and Petronov and those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems now that these athletes are dodging each other because of the money. Now, and you said, and you hit an important point, Roll. It's not entertaining anymore, because who wants to just see somebody go beat up on their little brother, little sister?
Yeah. Well, I think, again, and again, he's kind of, I won't say a controversial character, but he was instrumental in the UK, was Andy Norman.
Yeah.
And whether you liked him, loved him, or hated him, whatever, he was absolutely brilliant at packaging a meet and doing what it took to get the athletes and to get the attention. And it was brilliant. It was just kind of, I just kind of walked right into that. And it was just, and that's what I'm comparing it to. My experience the last few years has been, back, and just kind of remembering, one of my first internationals standing around, and it was literally within 10 feet of me, there was Dave Thompson, Ted Coe, Alan Wells, Steve Cram, Tessa something that's like all these, British icons, and it was just, at that time they were household names. They're still big names, and as an up-and-coming athlete, it was just amazing and just kind of just awestruck and inspiring. And now it seems like there's still some big names, just Ennis and some other big name athletes, but you go down a notch, and there's this kind of, if you look on the rankings on the Power of 10 in the UK, and it's just this huge void, especially in like the throws and the events that are getting less funding, and just kind of and for me, for the sport to stay up there, you need to support all the events, not just some of them.
Well,
and that comes to then just the funding and the marketing and the packaging, and there's some changes, and I think everyone knew that would happen after 2012. I think it's going to need to kind of settle itself out and see what happens. But I love the sport. I love my event especially, but and I want to, pass on my passion and love of the sports, and hopefully inspire other athletes, to follow their dreams.
Yeah, I agree. And another thing is, I'm just looking at track and field here in the U.S., and we talk about this all the time. There's not enough meets for the professional athlete. I mean, like I said, you're just not. Everyone looks towards Prefontaine, and a week later, or a week before, you may have the meet in New York. That's pretty much it for those sort of meets here in the U.S. Other than the national championships that they may happen to have, but that's a 3 to 4 day event. Folks try to make teams, but the smaller meets around the country are pretty much catered to collegiate athletes in the course of their season, and there aren't any big meets that to solidify those professional athletes. Because, like I said, if I had an opportunity to stay in the U.S. and was able to make the kind of money I would have over in Europe, I wouldn't have crossed the pond just to go to places like that. Although it afforded me the opportunity to see another side of the world, if I could have stayed in L.A. or in California and just bounced around the West Coast and go anywhere from Oregon to Fresno to Modesto down to San Diego, Long Beach, L.A., and was able to make a good penny doing that, believe you me, I would have stayed because I definitely would have got the competition I wanted, and would have had some real good times, and then could actually parlay that, go over to Europe for a few weeks at a time and run well there. However, that's not even the case. You got athletes bouncing all over the world, literally, and I think it's just been the setup of the way they've actually done the Diamond League. I mean, they spread the meets out, all over the place. You got meets in Shanghai and Korea, and you got them over in Europe, and you got them, maybe one, you got them in Doha, places like that. They're all over the place, and I think for those smaller meat promoters in those countries, they can't afford to navigate and get a lot of the top tier athletes in which in the past. I remember just getting on a plane, being a 48-second intermediate hurdler, but having an opportunity to get on the plane, fly over Europe, bounce around on the train, get to the meet, run well, get patted on the back, make a couple of dollars in my pocket, and then go on to the next meet. I mean, there was meets where you can run around and earn a pretty decent living, and just get the support of getting back and forth to meets and smaller meets, and then have an opportunity, if you put up a good time or a good throw, that you're on the radar of everybody, you will get invited to Geneva, you get invited to Lausanne, you get invited to Crystal Palace, just by the fact that you do a markup, and you could have been at this little lazy meet on some top of a hill in Italy somewhere, where maybe 10 people in the meet itself. But if you drop that time, it opened up the door for you to go places and get your name talked about. And I remember, I can attest to the fact that coming up in the ranks of the sport, that happened all the time. And if you were able to kind of piggyback off a great athlete on your team, you were able to do something like that. Raw, you said something. I marvel going to meets and seeing Steve Cram and Co. and those guys race against one another in Zurich, And I'm in the B or the C race, but I'm loved and patted on the back like I was in the A race with Edwin and Danny, And then a year later, I'm in the A race, doing my thing. And you remember the humility in which you had when you were able to get granted that opportunity to participate, and then when you're up on that stage, being one of the big guns participating, you remember that meet promoter provided you that opportunity. I mean, case in point, Andy was good for that, But Andy see a young athlete doing this thing, he was definitely going to put you in the mix with other athletes and to give you that opportunity, and pay you for it, Definitely and pay you for it. And I think we've really gotten away from that. And just the fact that I think a lot of the athletes, and I'm just thrown by this, is that our sport is always one just dedicated in the athlete knowing any sort of historical narrative of sporting, of athletics in general. And you find hurdlers don't know nothing about, you find intermediate hurdlers not knowing who the high hurdler is. You find high hurdlers not even knowing who intermediate hurdlers are. And that behooves me. I'm like, if you're a hurdler, you know both the high guys who run the highs and the guys who run the long race. You got guys just stuck on the high hurdles, and that's all they know, high hurdles. But then again, to be honest with you, you got high hurdlers who don't even know who the greats of the sports were. And then I think what happens is, that is the truest injustice of sport that I have personally when I see young hurdlers. I jump on athletes' case all the time. I say, yeah, you can be a great hurdler. I say, but if you don't, if you name me a hurdler and I'm not on your wall, you're not throwing darts at me, you're not serious enough on running under 47 seconds. You're not serious in running under 48 seconds. You need that kind of impetus to push you forward, for you to drive forward and drive toward. I mean, like I said, I was in awe when I used to see Cram and Ovett, those guys race, because I knew their history, and I knew when those guys brushing against one another, it was going to be one hell of a race. I knew when Johnny got in the race with those guys, it's going to be a fiery race, you know. And you just expected it.
Yeah, and it's interesting, I mean, you bring up that point because, again, it's something that Ian and I talked about with other people, and the strengths and weakness of our sport is the fact that there's so much variety. You know, the running events, the jumping events, the throwing events. There's no focal point. I mean, just when you're watching a football game or basketball game, like you follow the ball. And you go to a track meet. You can argue at the point that there's something for everyone, but at the same time there's multiple. And again, I'm looking at it as an artist and kind of as an athlete, that it's almost like everyone's distracted by what running event, or what jumping event, what throwing event. But like you said, I mean, I think there's this kind of lack of unity, or kind of all the events seem very separate. And then you go, like you said, then you compete in all over different countries and all over the world, and it kind of can potentially lead as far as, again, looking at this as a way of marketing the sport. I look at it as, why is it that track and field is like the sport during the Summer Olympics? But then after that, it just kind of subsides, and it's kind of one of the lesser sports. So I think it's because it's like something that everyone can relate to. Everyone in high school, could run or could jump or could throw something. And so it's someone that everyone can relate to. Then in years in between, it just kind of it goes away because how do you even see the event, see the sport?
Well, you know what, Rold? This is what I see about this. That's our fault. It's guys like us that have the opportunity and the means to talk about our track. I mean, what we're doing now is talking about track and field and athletics and that sort of thing. And you think about it. You look at the football model. You look at the baseball model. You look at the soccer model. They're in everybody's face. They don't allow it to die and then reignite the year before the Olympic Games. And that's our fault, because if we allow NBC, CBS, and the other sport channels to control our destiny and control how important athletics is, because athletics is one of the most in high school, one of the most popular sports in high school. I think the second or third, most popular sport. And if we allow it to die on the vine prior to the Olympic Games, that's our fault, because we have a story to tell. There's somebody out there overcoming adversity. There's somebody out there that's working every day. There's somebody out there that's different, and people want to hear that inspiring story. They want to see that inspiring athlete. But if we're hiding at the track, we never get that opportunity. So this is why I thought this show, this format, this platform is as strong as anything else, because we control it, not anyone else.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I just see that, I think athletics and track and field is going to survive, but exactly what you're talking about, that if we aren't careful, that other forces will dictate as to which, some of the events may become extinct or just kind of dismissed.
Yeah, right.
Not really, viewer friendly. And it's important that the officials and the governing bodies, package everything together to make it, viewer friendly and just easy to understand, and that it is 14 different events, and it's just kind of running, jumping, and throwing. And here's the different events, and not to kind of again, being a thrower, I come from a little different perspective. Just look at the number of the amount of time when you get any kind of coverage. How much time is spent on running events, how much time is spent on jumping, how much time is spent on throwing. and you hear the complaints that they do every single step of a 5,000-10,000 meter race, and they may show one throw or one jump or something. And I think that there's a missed opportunity and something that's can be easily addressed. But if we let it go out to other people outside the sport dictate and have no say in it, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, if you will.
Exactly, and that's the most important thing.
I want to touch on one thing real quick. Just the fact that you're a thrower, Rolf. One of the greatest participations in the games last year was the Trinidadian thrower who won the gold medal. The young kid who won the medal. I mean, he should be on everybody's tongue right now. I mean,
absolutely.
It was one of those situations where, I mean, I couldn't believe it. How many young Trinidadian throwers you get win the Olympic gold medal?
Oh yeah, and again, I mean, obviously within the javelin world, it's a relatively small world. That just what the? I mean,
exactly.
A 19-year-old from just a nobody, if you will, as far as
you're right, a 19-year-old kid.
and for me, it's just absolutely, again, being an artist and just kind of. I'm looking for opportunities to kind of get people's attention, get people to think about things, and to me, what a great story, what a great to kind of shake up the javelin community as far as I've had issues, and I've been pretty outspoken about. I think it's my event changed in '86 when they changed the design of javelin. And I think since then. The understanding of the event has gone down. People they don't understand it. As athletes and as coaches, I'm generalizing. There's still people out there who understand it. But to me, it's like so a 19-year-old comes out from nowhere and throws two personal bests on the day when it counts. And it reminds me again, going back to Al Urta, who was an athlete and artist and a mentor and an inspiration to me. When he won the first time when he was 19. And totally unexpected, and what happened, went on to become an Olympic icon and win 4 Olympic golds, and every time he was ruled out as being a medal contender or potential winner. I mean, that's the kind of things that if we look at things too closely, we miss those stories that can help our sports.
Right, I totally agree.
Active globally. And it's not going to miss an opportunity there. It's just, we need to push that out, or just kind of, whether it's youth track and field, or other, to really get those stories out, because it's not just, there's so many different events. You've got men and women, 14 events each. I get him right on that. And all these different stories. So there's a lot of competition for, media attention, let alone with all the Olympic year with all the other events. And I don't know what the setup is as far as, do we as an organisation have any say in or try and to help get stories pushed out there that can help our sport?
Well, we know for a fact now with all the social media that we do have, like I said, the onus is upon us now, because we have we can't. In the past, we used to complain about it because remember we would compete. The only time we would expect information to get over to the States or amongst the athletes unless we were reading the Herald Tribune on the plane going from France to the UK, or if we happened to be in the airport and be able to get a copy of it on the plane. That was it. You found a little blip of it in the back in the sports section of what happened in the track meet, and that was it. Folks in the U.S. really didn't know what was going on. We were over there setting the world on fire in sport, But now, like I said, we just have to really throw the information out there and do it in a positive way that we're not, and we're keeping the sport up and on the tier in which it happens to be. But most importantly, I think the key, what you said, is the fact that is going to be the new face of our sport, or it has to be, or could be, or will be the new face of that event. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, like I can discuss the hurdlers. We have a number of hurdlers now. I don't know what the age bracketing is, but we got a lot of our top hurdlers. You know, we have to look at our development hurdlers, the younger guys that are in college, and other places around the world, to be members of that 2016 team. You know.
Well, hey Kevin, you know, I think about the changing the guard. Roll mentioned it earlier when it was time. It's time. This year, the changing of the guard. Did you at the outdoor championship? If you remember, there were a lot of elite athletes that were sitting up in the stands or got eliminated early. What were your thoughts about Allison Felix getting beat in the 200, which is one of her specialty events, by the young gun coming out of LSU? What was your thought when there was an upset in the 110-meter hurdles when, you know, here you got the world Aries Merritt, who takes fourth or third or barely squeaks in, David Oliver second, and then you've got the young fella out there winning.
Yeah, what's his name? Oliver? Kelly Wilson, something Wilson.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's you know, one of the good things about our sport, that's to be expected, but we should always see that on the horizon as athletes. If you can do the harsh reality of our sport is if you have to be on your A game all the time. There's always somebody in the wings. Yeah. There's always somebody in the wings just you know, waiting for their opportunity, and rightfully so. However, the sad part is, this is the sad part, not the fact that they're waiting on the wings, that the powers that be know those youngsters are out there, but they don't need, in order for them to be able to get more out of it, they should be seeing them on the horizon and doing something for them as they come up, you know, so it won't be much of a shock to people. I mean, folks seen Brianna Rollins, a young lady in the hurdles and in the short race, do her thing collegiately. You know, it's just a matter of time before she gets it together, get her timing together, and she gets comfortable within the race and the psychology of the sport itself, and she goes out there and drop one on the world. And that's for us. That's for all athletes. You know, we all have that shelf life, as we say. The key thing is for our sport is to try to nurture it for every event, not just pick and choose which events the companies are going to sell the most shoes, or this person that looks more camera friendly. You know, take those individuals, put them on pedestals, and let them enjoy their glory in the sun. And then the younger ones coming up, make sure that they have that connection, that their torch is being passed along. I think that's the saddest thing in our sport is we let folks dictate who's extending the torch instead of us doing it as athletes.
Yeah, totally agree.
You know, that's one of the main. I mean, it's part easier in our sport because although we congregate amongst one another, it gets to be an individual thing because you can get so narrow-minded or just kind of ingrained in doing what you need to do as an athlete, just kind of totally tunnel vision, I guess you would say. Not that you're trying to ostracize anybody, but you have to really get within yourself to go out there to perform well. But it's really easy to not even see who's outside of your parameters, and you don't give them any kind of adulation or whatever, because at that point it really is all about you. But if you don't allow others, you know, and not just you yourself as an athlete, but your support system, you know, you get agents bickering with other agents, just telling their athletes and even coaches that you shouldn't talk to this person, you shouldn't talk, being very immature about the sport itself.
Yeah.
And then you got athletes just kind of just listening to that, not knowing that that's not the direction in which they need to be going. Because the worst thing you can do as an athlete is to get hurt and have to humble yourself. The individuals that you did not humble yourself before when you were running well. You know, it's not a good thing.
Well, gentlemen, we're almost at the end of the show, and it's 45 minutes just blows by when you're just talking about the sport that we love. And it just goes right back to, I think the onus falls right back on us. It's people like us who are track and field coaches, athletes, enthusiasts, purists, whatever you want to call us, whatever adjective you want to throw out there to perpetuate our sports. I mean, Kevin, I think you've been a good ambassador, not even a good ambassador. I think you've been a great ambassador because you're always giving back.
Dude, I love this sport, man. I see our future in the sport. I'm always, I try to be as open as I possibly can, or reachable as you can say, and just try to, like my biggest thing is, we talk about it night and day in. You have to stay relevant.
Yeah, stay relevant.
You have to stay relevant. I really appreciate Roll, because Roll actually calls me from time to time and lets me know what he's doing, what he's working on, what kind of projects. And he's one of those athletes where he's not just a javelin thrower. This guy's an artist, and international artist. Now, wait a minute, that's a story among itself. And so the projects that we need to look forward to. Okay, let's engage all our athletes and former athletes, masters, youth, elite, and see what kind of creative visions and artwork and artistry, whatever they may have, and have talents that they can provide for the future. Actually, to do our Roll. No, we should do a series of sweatshirts or T-shirts. You know how Adidas or Nike they do that.
Well,
Kev, they do a collection.
I'm going to challenge you to do that and get it going. But we're at the end of the rope today, and Roll. What is it that you want to leave us with?
We'll talk to you about that. I'll talk to you about that later on another call.
Yeah, okay. That's beautiful. Roll. Now, what would you, in your career, in 15 seconds, what is it you got out of it, and what is it you want to give?
What I got out of it was just I managed to pursue my dream, and now it's getting back and just trying to